Oh,
Hello
record.
and welcome to First Geek 411.
Redo that.
I'm
A man said, do it
hello,
again.
hello and welcome to First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin. With me, as always, is by my best man, Chris Nicolay. Chris, how you doing today?
Hello, I'm a little behind and we're a little slow, but we'll get there.
We're having fun. And joining us is Darman. Darman, how are you doing today?
I don't know why I'm here.
Well, hopefully you do, because you put things in the show notes.
Oh. Oh, that's what those were. I thought that was my resume.
Yeah, that'd be a super weird resume, but we're going to get know Darman a little bit better in 1 second. But before we do that, as always, listeners, you can find us on our social media, which is One Geek 411 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And of course, you can join our Discord server if you want to hang out with us between episodes. And send us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. And check out the show notes on our website, onegeek411.com. You can watch live Monday nights on Twitch, 6:45 Mountain Time, and find our video on YouTube after the fact. We also have a Redbubble store, and then if you're a podcast listener, you can rate and subscribe. The thing that Darman didn't know he was here for is that this week is our Kaldheim top cards, and we are going to be chatting about the latest cards from this Magic the Gathering set. But before we get into it, Darman, we want our listeners to get to know you and where you're from, and so why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm representing two communities tonight. First and foremost, the Mana Flood Christian Magic the Gathering community. If you guys are looking for another place to meet up with cool Christian geeks who love all things magic, there's Mana Flood. I also represent another organization that's a little bit more gaming in general, CrossForge Gaming, where we are the in-between grounds between the gaming world and Christianity, where we allow gamers to be gamers. And that's just a short version of that.
Hey, I like it. And so obviously today we're going to be chatting about Magic the Gathering, but besides Magic, what are some things that you are geeky about?
So I am just very big into card games in general. I play Pokemon TCG as well. I played the Star Wars card game by Decipher that ran from 97 to 2001. That was where my love of card games began. But I also play MOBAs. I play a lot of League of Legends and Dota 2. Recently, I've been on a Fortnite kick. I've been sucked into the capitalist propaganda that is. But
It's like everyone's back into Fortnite right now.
Yeah, there's been a big resurgence lately, it feels like.
No one probably has anything better to do.
I mean, so after I played the game season 1, and I was like, yeah, the building's cool. Wasn't super into it. The gameplay just was a little bit lacking. They've added a whole mythos and world to Fortnite now that makes it really fun and engaging, I think.
Nice.
But we're not here to talk about Fortnite. We're here to talk about some magic.
Yep. And before we do that, I do have another trading card game question for you. So you said
Sure.
you played a lot. Have you played the OG Lord of the Rings trading card game?
Did you ask that just for me?
Yes, I did.
I tried so hard. It looked cool on paper. Next question, please.
So, so longtime listeners will remember that Chris is super into Lord of the Rings. But that's not long time. That's last week, listeners. And then, but yeah, Chris and I, I guess, did a lot of shopping around for the Lord of the Rings game cards. I don't know if we ever actually played together. But
this is probably a good time to show off my Gandalf replica pipe.
Perfect time.
Yeah. But yeah, so Lord of the Rings was the first trading card game I ever played. Back obviously launched during the original movies, and yeah, a lot of people around me played Magic. A lot of people that were playing Lord of the Rings at the time. But yeah, that one was definitely doomed to fail, though.
It was, and
we can do 3 sets. We can do 3 sets.
4 out of the question. There was 3 books. You got it? Okay. done. But it was really unfortunate because it was also alongside Legend of the Five Rings, which just really confused a lot of casual people coming in off of the movie hype. So, but that game also was doomed to fail, unfortunately. Just not unable to keep up with the powerhouses of the market.
Yeah. Speaking of things that hopefully aren't doomed to fail, what got you into Magic, Norman?
So I was playing with a couple of people playing Cardfight Vanguard, and several of my friends had mentioned, "Oh, Cardfight Vanguard is so one-sided. You can't do anything during your opponent's turn." And I said, "Wait a minute. In what game do you interact with your opponent while they're playing the game?" And they were like, "Oh, well, I played this game called Magic the Gathering." And growing
I'm a
up
dirty blue player.
He's got a nope on. Hit him with that nope.
So I got into Magic at Kaldheim. I picked up a couple of the Planeswalker decks to start. Got really intimately enraptured by the concept of milling. I think the idea of hitting people with 100 creatures is utterly barbaric. Alternate win conditions have been a long time favorite thing of mine. In the Star Wars card game, you had objective cards that if you completed the objective, you would win the game. Goofy thematic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So mill appealed to me right off the gate. So I had an energy mill deck with dramatic reversal.
And then as we do our top, we're each bringing 5 cards this week. So as we do our top 5, one of the things that we like to kind of do our starting caveat and conversations around is how do we typically play? So Darman, why don't you start us off? How do you primarily play Magic?
It really depends on the environment. When I'm at my local game store, I get a little bit more sweaty than I would when I'm playing with my friends online. Online, I am predominantly playing Arena just to grind quests. I don't get super serious on the ladder. I usually end up high gold, low diamond. But I do have an affinity for just below CEDH. High-powered EDH. Listen, a game's got to end sometime, so somebody has to play a combo.
Yeah. Hey, you don't have to tell me that. I've been called to try hard for playing targeted removal. So,
listen, okay, so I have a hard question for you then. With the introduction of Commander Legends, do we play Fatal Push in decks that have black in EDH?
Did people for the
for Hull Breacher and Opposition Agent?
I mean,
for 1 mana removal.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I guess in my decks that are removal heavy, they're typically white, so you play Path and Swords.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Because those are like Fatal Push is just a hard sell because it has that restriction. And with EDH, I don't know. I couldn't necessarily run that because in general, I don't need 1 mana removal because unless that's in your early hand, it's not as useful.
I just find myself caught up in so many situations where I have a fetch land and it's my favorite thing to do. And people are like, they know that I have it, but they don't see what I can sack to enable it on their turn.
Yep.
So
right. I like it. Chris, how do you primarily play Magic?
Tribal a lot. I like kind of restricting my deck building to themes. So I lean a lot into kind of obscure themes. So like so a lot of my decks, Halar, the Fire Fletcher, Kicker Tribal, leaning hard into that, or building as previously mentioned alternate win cons, building around that and like saying, okay, this is all I'm doing is I'm just going for an alternate way to win or kick someone out of the game, or anything like that. So obviously Elves Tribal, but pretty casual, but not afraid to kind of ramp things up. I kind of limit a lot of my deck power due to certain restrictions. So like my elf tribal is true elf tribal, so no crater hoof. Fortunately, as much as people tell me he's honorary, just
Yep.
does not. He's not an elf yet.
If you squint, Crater Hoof's definitely
If
an
you
elf.
look hard
If they
enough.
threw a ton of elves into his picture, I would include him. Like if we
Yeah.
get an alt art crater hoof with an elf in the background somewhere,
I
he'll
mean,
be- he'll go-
really,
he'll go right
that's
in.
why we have Allosaurus Shepherd, right?
it's like I
And
could
I
do
would-
something
I
to
would
where
submit.
you throw in like this week in Kaldheim set, you know, the artifact that makes them all creature types.
Yep.
Then I would like, but that's the only way I can play him though. Is if I have that artifact out, then I can play Crater Hoof. But otherwise, I couldn't play him. I'd restrict myself that way. That's the type of player I am.
So about 2 weeks ago, I actually built my first deck that did not have blue for the first time in literally 2 years. Before that, it was Edgar Markov. So I
Ooh.
built Jund elves for EDH, and I got to tell you, Mara and Tana, the Blood Sword, it's a really good pair. I've been looking at the elf decks for a while now, and when I heard that elves were going to be a big feature in Kaldheim, I too was with that elf hype.
Yeah,
Yep.
they've leaned in. The last two sets have really leaned in the Golgari elves, and I'm not mad.
Which makes
I'm just.
I'm a little mad. I want Grugel elves.
I would like some other colors. Not gonna lie. I would
Like, listen, I know elves are focused on the whole nature thing, and Jund is very much chaotic nature, but can we lean a little bit more into red?
I agree though. Actually, like I would, because like everything elf has been with a few exceptions, but not enough support to actually build elf decks around them in the other colors. I definitely agree. I'd like to see maybe even just like leaning into even some of the other two color options, Selesnya and Gruul. I wouldn't be mad about for sure.
And then for me, then we'll hop into our list. I primarily play Commander and then Historic on Arena. Are my two main ways to play. I do have some modern decks, and I've off and on played Standard, but I tend to play Commander and Historic. Chris, you'll be proud of me. I actually just put together Historic Elves in preparation for this new set dropping, and I got to tell you, Craterhoof, honorary elf.
He really is. Not gonna lie, I was like, I just have other things I'm trying to do with my elf decks, I guess.
Yeah, I gotta say, ramping into turn 3 Craterhoof, or turn 4 Craterhoof. Man, it's a good feeling.
Oh, I bet.
So,
I mean,
guess.
it's literally no worse than Muxus on 3.
oh yeah, it's definitely like it's one
It's
of those.
literally
that-
the same thing, right?
that,
Like
um,
you
it's-
see it and you scoop.
Yeah, it's no more degenerate, but I gotta say, it's such a good feeling when like your opponent all out attacks you, and then they put you down to like 2, and you just got like a couple mana dorks in play, and then you go Fierce Empath into Craterhoof and to attack you for 50.
Yeah,
It just feels good.
decent.
Yeah, it
Seems
just feels good.
decent.
I love it when you sit there and you're just like, sure, I'll take it. No blocks.
Yeah, no blocks.
And you're like,
thinking,
and then, oh
that's
no,
priority.
oh no, oh no, 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 no.
no. And so let's hop into our Kaldheim conversation. For the listeners, Kaldheim is the Norse mythology inspired set. And so we see a return of some older mechanics. One of the big ones is snow. So we have the return of snowlands and snow sorceries and snow creatures, things like that.
We should mention this is a return to snow in a standard set.
Yes. First time
That
we've
is
had
a
it in
huge-
standard in a very long time.
Yes.
And I think we've had more snow in like the past 3 years than has existed in the whole rest of Magic before that.
I think they legitimately forgot snow was a mechanic, and it was like, okay, what can we do to revitalize modern? Snow.
Yeah.
Ice Fang Codal.
Oh man.
Okay.
I, I think this is just a really big
Fair and
expansion
balanced knowledge
because when they brought it back for Modern Horizons,
Mhm.
it was now this is an opportunity for people to really lean into that in terms of EDH builds. And that's the thing about Wizards is they do a lot of they're like, okay, it's not really going to completely change the other metas. It kind of does, but like or it's
And
an
then they mess
oversight
up
when
and
it
then it
does, and then
does.
they mess
Yeah.
up and it really does. But it's like but if we kind of lean into this way an older mechanic people already are running some of these, it might expand the value of some of these older cards as a result, just because now they are in easily our most popular format, they are viable. And it's like, oh, I can
Well,
build a snow themed deck now that's just
and the
all
other thing
snowlands.
is, in my opinion, as a moderately new player coming into these competitive formats, right? It's really important that we have this power creep in some of the newer sets. If a new card is seeing play all the way to Legacy and Vintage, I think that the design team has done something very special because they've broken up what has otherwise been a stale format for years. When I first got into Magic, it was all Legacy Reanimator, or you had Azorius Control with Sphinx's Rev and Jason Mind Sculptor. Um, but it was a lot of. I literally walked into a store and 7 guys are playing Legacy Reanimator because it's hard to beat Churn 1 Grizzlebrand.
Turns out.
Turns out it's
What?
pretty stinking good. Hitting somebody with Flying 7 on turn 2. Draw 7 cards
Yeah.
for 7 life.
Yeah.
And I think that's something
So
like
if
Wizard kind of does consider. It's like how can we word this card, or how can we write a card that will be modern viable, legacy viable, but not
Just-
break standard? It's
right,
like,
just
and-
sprinkle on the stipulations there.
yeah. Lots of stipulations, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, we can do that by what is a mechanic that exists in these formats that we don't see that we can power boost just by reintroducing a similar aspect. So reintroducing snow creatures and like writing a card that essentially, yeah, it's probably not going to be good in the standard meta, but it supports an older card.
It's to the point where we can play Scred in EDH now, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. I completely agree. Let's get that. We don't need lightning bolt. We got spread.
Facts.
And so outside of snow, we also have the return of sagas as the enchantment sub theme. And so we still have some from Theros Beyond Death that are in standard. So we're not going to dwell on those too much for this. Then Chris and Darman alluded to it. We also have the return of tribal, specifically elf tribal is back. We also have angels, berserkers, dwarves,
Giants.
Oddly enough, warrior is really big, and there are a lot of party tribal cards that are being snuck in here that I think people are sleeping on.
Yeah, you beat me to that point. There's a lot of casual like, oops, this is a cleric.
Right.
Where we
there's
have
a couple of oops knights.
yeah. So like, we still have party and standard, and likely we'll have it again. I mean, that's what people are thinking for the D&D set in the spring or fall or summer.
Oh yes.
And so don't be sleeping on those party cards.
Absolutely not. And I keep telling this to the people in my Discord, and you can mark me on this. By this time next year, everybody's going to be pissing and crying over party as a mechanic as soon as the next block rotation happens.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot of change once we leave, once Eldraine leaves standard. I think we're going to open up a whole bunch of stuff. And then a returning mechanic that is also kind of brand new is that we have the return of modal double-faced cards. We just saw these in Zendikar Rising, but now the second side of the card is not a land every time. And
What?
so, yeah, this is kind of the obvious transition of where this mechanic was going. But we're going to get into it. So there's some definite shenanigans around modal double-faced cards.
Yeah, if I may take a moment.
Okay.
MDFCs are both the best and worst thing, and I'm not even going to get into the edge case that you and I had previously talked
Yeah.
about before we went live. But if all I'm going to say is if we're going to keep making these cards, in terms of EDH, we need to ban my favorite little otter. We need to unban Lutri. If we
Bring Lutri
keep
back.
up,
Bring Lutri back.
free the fish ferret.
Yeah. Lutri did nothing wrong, besides be a free card in every blue-green deck. But
well, if we're gonna keep making these MDFCs, right? They're effectively 100 and 100.5 cards. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
We'll see.
Yeah. In terms of EDH, I love these types of cards just because more versatility on a single card just makes that card better in multiple instances. And that's the thing. Yeah, you have options. And granted, as we see them go into this route, now they have even more options instead of I need a land versus I need the creature or something. Yeah. Now we're seeing a little more, okay. How can I break this?
Oh, and they're so much fun. I'm so excited for these. One of them is my, like, we don't typically actually rank them, but one of them is my top card. So I'm all aboard the Hive train. And then the new mechanic that we have, like completely new, is Foretell. And so Foretell is kind of like spell morph. Yes. Like you can pay 2 generic mana and then exile the card from your hand face down, and then you can cast it for its Foretell cost on a later turn. And so,
would it be more accurate to call it pseudo suspend?
Yeah, I've heard like pseudo suspend, and then
I like spell morph definitely makes sense, but like with the action of doing the foretelling, do you have to reveal it before you?
No,
because you foretell face down.
So at the end of the game, you have to reveal your face down exile.
Yeah, and if you lied, you lose.
Right.
Don't cheat, guys.
Yeah.
Small edge cases in paper magic.
Right. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, the advantage, obviously, pseudo suspend it would be a thing, but suspend automatically casts after counters, right? After timeout. It times out. So this is more so, sure. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! It's I laid out a trap card.
Yeah, I put the spell in exile in defense mode. Then the big thing is your Foretell actual to cast it from exile is typically cheaper, typically about 2 mana, not always, but that's the kind of the payoff to not being able to cast it right away. Foretell's pretty fun. I'm excited that we have some on our lists later. And so, speaking of our lists, let's go ahead and get into our top cards. Darman, why don't you start us off?
All right. So I kind of took things in a rank of importance, and that is Legacy, Commander, Standard, and they all really just kind of blend together. My first card that will absolutely 100% catch a ban in at least 2 formats is Tybalt's Trickery. Being able to whiff out an Emrakul turn 0 just is the exact definition of ban worthy. If you can do anything stupid to cheat a mana cost, they did the math, and you had like a 93% chance in Modern of using Tybalt's Trickery on turn 2 to spit out an Emrakul, and that is too much for the Modern environment. It was already bad enough with Through the Breach, but this guaranteed a deck of literally 8 spells with an aggressive London Mulligan, a guaranteed turn 2, turn 3 Emrakul 83% of the time. So this is definitely going to catch a Modern ban. It's probably going to catch a Standard ban because people are going to use it to cheat out Ugin. That or they'll just ban Ugin, and then literally the next biggest creature is a problem after that.
Right.
Um,
So we got it up on the screen now, but would you read Tybalt's trickery for
I
the
sure
audio
can.
listeners?
I sure can. Tybalt's trickery. Oh, it's a slippery one. It's an instant for 1 colorless and a red. Yeah, counter target spell. Gasp. In red.
In red, white can't have counter spells because that's not fun.
No,
but red can have counter spells.
The problem. I'm not gonna get on my soapbox. I'm not gonna get on my white soapbox. So we counter target spell for 2 mana. Choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Roll your d6 at the table. Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than that spell. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then they put the exiled cards on the bottom of their library in a random order. We're not using this on our opponents, guys.
Right. I feel like this is one of those cards that if like the first 4 words were like, or if the first 3 words were 4 words instead, completely fine. Like if this was target opponent's spell or target spell and opponent controls, perfectly fine. But the fact that, as you were saying, Darman, the fact that you can just like counter your own creature with this or your own spell and then oops into Emrakul, like this feels like one of those play testing oversights that like, because apparently they've said that with Oko, where with Oko they just didn't think of elking their opponent's stuff.
They didn't think a free beast within every turn was a problem.
Right. Like they didn't think of that like completely blanking stuff. And this card definitely feels that exact same way. Where like this card is 100% reasonable countering your opponent's stuff. But when you built your deck around it and you have an 80 whatever chance of getting an Emrakul on turn 2.
Yeah, it's too much. Too much.
From an EDH perspective, though, this is just a lot of fun red. That's all it is. It's just
this
fun
is
red.
Chris's chaos coming out.
This is
Yeah,
something I will include just because it is chaotic. It's fun. It's something that
sorry, go on.
That I would just enjoy either in Niv Mizzet or even Ilharg. Just a random, or even my next Rakdos build probably. And it adds an element of, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see.
I definitely think this card has a home in EDH, especially CEDH, because there are a lot of mono red decks that don't have enough interaction. They either gas out with Godo or they tap out with Krenko. This allows a little bit more room for cool cards like Torben.
Yes.
Of the Red Throne, Red something.
Red Fell?
Red permanent Steve +2 damage. Yeah. That's what that card is.
Yeah, Thane of Red Fell.
I was close.
He's a Thane.
I think this is a feels good fair card that adds a nice chaos blend, like you were saying there, Chris. But it sometimes you just got to counter the Psych Rift, you know? Doesn't matter what they get after that. You just don't lose to a Psych Rift.
Right.
Also, just sneaking in a counter spell in your red deck. You're just in response. Wait, what? You're playing red.
Listen, if you're not playing Pyroblast or Red Elemental, just what are you doing? At least one.
Sure. But it's just like, oh, by the way, I counter that. And they're like, what?
What are you going to do about it?
You
know what I'm going to do about it? Move on to my next.
You're playing Ilharg right now, Chris. What are you doing?
So my second card for my top 5.
Oh, we'll rotate through. So we'll do one each, and we'll.
I didn't. So sorry.
That was my bad. I didn't tell you that before we got going, and so that's completely on me. But I do have a great segue because we were just talking about Pyroblast, and so speaking of the opposite end of the power spectrum is Chris's first card.
Okay, so you're giving it to me. My first card, just because this is the life I want to live, is Grizzled Outrider. Had to get
I'm
my elf
so
common.
happy.
Grizzled Outrider is 4 colorless and a green for a 5/5 vanilla elf warrior. But his art is an elf riding a bear, and this is the life I want to live. I always joked about calling out Dominion in the woods and riding a bear out when I get injured. But and also the text says, sure, a horse might be faster, but I'd like to see a horse take the head clean off a troll in one swipe. I'm like, yes.
Valid criticism of horses.
So true. But yep, this is me.
Windmill
this is
slam into Goreclaw.
This is what I want out of life, guys. And it's not a good card by any means. But
I unironically actually like this card in Goreclaw EDH.
like it's not like it doesn't have a place. It's just it's
not a
a
good
vanilla
place.
5/5 creature.
Listen,
that
I'm just
hey,
out here with the edge case, right? Like this card is actually okay in this deck.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
you could slide it into a budget Goreclaw deck and have so much fun.
have some fun.
I will say on this, this kind of furthers my I'm bothered that this doesn't have subtype bear.
Right?
Like I get that it's the
Right,
elf
but it's-
riding the bear,
Yeah.
but at the same time, the bear is also there.
And
Like
the text is all about the bear too.
it's all about the bear. Like why is this not an elf warrior bear?
Or an elf bear rider. Like make it own subtype even. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But also bear tribal recently became a thing. There's a lot more bear support
Mhm.
lately. So but yeah, this is what I want out of life.
I like it. My next
What
card,
you got
or
for us?
first card, I guess, is Immerstrom Predator for 2 black red creature vampire dragon. And I gotta say, those are some creature types. Flying 3/3, and when it becomes tapped, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on Immerstrom Predator. Then sacrifice another line of text.
Also, different
yes.
different activation.
Yes. Sacrifice a creature. Immerstrom Predator becomes or gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. So I'm huge on to the Vampire Tribal. You mentioned Edgar Markov earlier. Huge
Mhm.
fan. Also a big Marchesa, the Black Rose fan. And this feels nice in both of those. Also,
1/1 counters.
Yeah, counters.
Vampire typing on a
Yeah.
dragon.
And then recently on Star City Games, they've been testing out some of the new cards, and Immerstrom is really good with vehicles.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, absolutely. I can see that.
Um,
Being able to crew as you go along, yeah.
mhm.
I'm having weird flashbacks to a 2006 Flash adventure game. Y'all remember Adventure Quest?
I do not know if I do.
No? There was a whole big thing about vampire dragons in Adventure Quest, and I'm getting real bad flashbacks.
No, I do not recognize this.
I
I
can't
Googled.
Google right now.
Because it ruins everything.
Whoops.
Um,
It's a really cool card. I like this in Standard. I like this in EDH.
Mhm.
Like you mentioned, a cool Mardu Vehicles return to EDH would really want to play this card because it's able to crew the larger vehicles, especially something like the vehicle from War of the Spark, where it produces the angels and stuff.
Panhelion? Parhelion?
Parhelion 2.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Um,
Really
Yeah.
reaching for these edge cards
Yeah.
here.
That's what EDH is about, though.
Right. Right.
Finding a home for the homeless.
What is the
Exactly.
unique niche that is weird in this set that you can't wait to throw in EDH deck? That's why I love
that's
EDH.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like, this is not good, but I have a place for it.
But we're
Or
gonna
at
have
least-
fun.
Well, and I'll save that for the after talk.
Darman, go ahead. What is your next card?
All right. Let's see. We have a card that is good in literally every format. Rally the Ranks. It is a 1 colorless, 1 white enchantment. Pick a type. Creatures of that type are +1/+1.
Why is this
I
a
don't.
white card?
Why is this a white card? I don't know. Let me look through my history of white cards. We have the Crusade. We have Jihad. We have Intangible Virtue. Anthem effects. Okay.
So we were going through and grabbing the images for this, and I was like, I have no clue what this card is, but this is the whitest card name I've ever heard. And then sure enough, like that's exactly where it is. Like, but yeah, this is an awesome effect. A 2-mana Anthem is great. Like,
I feel like this is gonna.
I like that it
push.
does have a restriction that
Mhm.
it's gonna be made for, it's designed for tribal decks, that you have to pick a creature type. And
I think
only
this
those
is going to be
creature
the
types get it,
card
but-
that breaks clerics and angels respectively.
Nice.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I
good
can
call
see
outs.
that. Yeah, upping the power of your pretty big angels already just for 2
Yeah.
seems pretty good.
Well, and being able to stack multiple. I mean, turn 1 being able to play in the case of clerics, being able to play any of the 1-drop white clerics, or even the Corset one that turns into the 5/5.
That turns into a demon. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that
but
one. Archfiend's Vessel.
Yeah.
Just being able to add extra lifelink to sustain yourself to get to the point of playing the larger clerics, or being able to play your mass reanimation through Agadeem's Awakening, or being able to bolt land sooner, or playing Amiria's Awakening. Like this card is just insane all the way around. Nothing bad to say about it. Is it going to catch a ban? Absolutely not.
This is that nice fair card that like will either be really strong or do nothing.
Which
Like
makes
one of
sense for
those.
white. It's just like,
Yeah.
just like, well, here's this.
Turn 2, deal with it.
Yeah.
It's like it's an inconvenience, but it's not like, well, okay,
Oh no. Anyways,
I'm not wasting my enchantment removal on it. But
I think there comes a point where you do though, right? If they manage to flood out the board with a mass reanimation spell afterwards, like it goes from hitting an enchantment and reducing 5 damage to reducing 6 damage as the board gets wider.
like I can see a place where I would use it, like especially if I can do it at instant speed, where it's like, well, they thought these were bigger than they were,
Right, and then
block out and
accordingly.
destroy them. Yeah, and just be like,
And this is also a great example of that card that hits or gets hit by incidental hate. So like this isn't the card that like you necessarily would board in your enchantment removal for, but like if you're already playing the new changeling, that when it enters you can spike enchantment, or if you're playing any kind of hate for the cleave or for great hinge, like which are artifacts, not enchantments, but most things hit both. So you bring those in, and so like there's definitely a world where this kind of just gets hit by incidental hate. But again, if they're hitting that and not your cleave or your
it's like it,
like your other hate, you're in good shape.
or it's that one or you have someone that's a little newer and they're like, this is I hate this card, and just like, yeah, there's better targets. Why did you do that? There were so many better targets.
Chris, what is your next card?
My next card, what did I say? Oh, as I ruin everything. Herald unites the elves. So I had to start off with my 2 elf cards. Granted, this is the kind of the elf card I want to mention, just because the new Planeswalker being Tyvar is an elf, which means he has a special place. But Herald Unites the Elves is a saga for 2 colorless, black, green. First counter, mill 3 cards. You may put an elf or Tyvar card from your graveyard onto the battlefield, so Recrural. And Golgari always seems good. Part 2, put a 1/1 counter on each elf you control, and I usually control a lot of elves.
Yeah.
And then part 3, whenever an elf you control attacks this turn, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So I don't know, just being able to, that progression is perfect. Pacing for my elf deck, when it comes out, lets me recur an elf if it's really important, so I can do some fun little things. Also, it specifically titles one of the Tyvar, so that means, and Tyvar is really good too.
I think that's my
For elves.
favorite thing about this card is because Tyvar is a new planeswalker, this card will never not be relevant. It already wasn't irrelevant because it says elf on it.
Right.
It says elf is specifically 5 times. But like because it names Tyvar, any new Tyvar card, this can be played alongside of it.
Right. It doesn't specifically name a specific Tyvar like we've seen certain call outs in the original standard Planeswalker decks with new releases. It just says a Tyvar card. So yes, I'm looking forward to this. I like the thing about all the new elf support is I have to revamp my elf deck like completely. Which I don't mind. And yeah, but I'm looking forward to seeing what fun little changes I can make.
Mm-hmm. My next card is a card that I can't wait to play against Chris's elf deck. And that is Doomscar. So Doomscar is my Foretell card for this. So as a reminder for Foretell, you can exile it for 2 generic mana and then cast it for its Foretell cost. But it's a 5 mana, destroy all creatures, 3 white. But if you foretell it, it's 1 white. And so 3 mana wraths are back on the menu.
I'm so happy to be a control player.
Yeah. And so this card for me kind of stands in on this list for all of the really good blue-white foretell cards. Because there's a lot of them. And they feel really good. So I'm super excited for where this is going to put blue, white, and standard. And I mean, again, just having 3 mana wraths back. This is the first time in a long time we've had a good 3 mana wrath. The most recent one was probably Anger of the Gods, which I mean isn't a true wrath, but that was probably Bantu's Last Resort didn't see a lot of play.
No, I was actually gonna say Cry of the Carnarium, but it's not a wrath. It's technically a clear.
Yeah, and Anger of the Gods kind of falls into that same category.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the first time in a very long time we've had a good 3 mana destroy all creatures without a significant downside or significant restriction. Maybe that's the other way to say it.
Right.
Go ahead.
I think my favorite part about this card is it allows them a little bit of freedom to play around with the toughness of creatures. For a long time there, you didn't see creatures that had more than 2 or 3 toughness, and it was so annoying. You had these awkward 1/4s, 2/5s, and it just they didn't have any impact except for playing draft and being weird blockers. So now we can see some nice aggressive statting, and we can see that in some of the other cards. There's the Black God that is a 3 mana 6/6. Well, I'm not scared of a 3 mana 6/6 in the same format that I have a 3 mana board clear. Yeah.
That Egon was almost on my list. That's a fun one. Yeah. Darman, we'll go back up to you.
Oh, I'm next. Oh boy. So my friends are moderately upset with me because I am once again here to ask you if I may take another turn. Alrund's Epiphany, 5 colorless, blue pip, sorcery. Create 2 blue burbs with flying and take an extra turn after this one. Exile Alrund's Epiphany. You may foretell this spell and pay its cost for 6 instead. My house is not burning down.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that sounds like a...
Life is good. Life is good. So we have an effective 6 mana take an extra turn spell that we're just gonna tuck aside at the beginning of the game, and then eventually just whip out on our opponents. Just having the birds is especially important because it also gives you a nice layout for defense. if you cannot sustain those extra turns.
And this is really good in a format where we still have Shark Typhoon.
Absolutely.
Like we still have that. And then, I mean, perfect play off my previous card with Doomscar. But like that blue-white Foretell Shell is going to be super good. And this is a great curve topper for that.
Seems good.
Yeah.
Although, like, it's still a higher cost spell, so I mean, it's not crazy either. But extra turns is always obnoxious.
And it thankfully exiles itself.
Yes.
We're not going to have another Nexus of Fate here.
Yeah, it's extremely fair, and it's impactful for, you know, the Kefnet turns deck. Any place where we want to copy spells, if we can fork a spell like this,
Yes.
it just produces more and more value. We can stick this onto Elite Arcanist from Corset 14. It's versatile and it's extremely fair. It doesn't break anything. But the edge case that my friends don't know about yet, or might have forgotten, is that because Foretell is an alternate casting cost, we could play Is It Wizards in Standard and then cast this bad boy on turn 4.
Oh, with
Kaza the Royal Chaser.
Yeah.
So
I
people
love it.
are not. My friends are not ready for this level of jank. But the problem is that this jank is actually kind of good because it makes birds.
Birds.
Birds
Birds.
Yeah.
The birds. The word. The bird.
Yeah, I had definitely not thought about it, but that seems like an awesome shell for this deck.
Yep. Everybody's
Because you
sleeping on
have
it.
creatures in play.
Yep.
Like
Everybody's
you're
sleeping on it.
yeah. Yeah, great call out.
Nice. I'm actually excited.
Yeah. Chris, conveniently, this is might be kind of good against that Wizards take extra turn decks, assuming you don't lose on the spot.
Maybe. Well,
What is your next
you're
card?
probably gonna lose on spot. My next card is Blood on the
I should hope.
Snow, which is a snow sorcery. It is a snow card, so costs 4 and 2 black. And it also just brings us back to kind of the board wipes. Best colors for board wipes: black and white. What would you know?
Mhm.
But it has choose one, destroy all creatures, or destroy all planeswalkers. Then return a creature or planeswalker card with convert a mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of snow mana spent to cast a spell. So potentially return a 6 cost creature or planeswalker from my graveyard to the battlefield after I do a board wipe. Seems pretty good, but also just good board wipe. Also getting those like against those Super Friends decks in EDH. Granted, they're not crazy. There's just blanket planeswalker removal is hard to come by. But they've been working on that. We've been seeing a little more of that, and this is just a great example of a
We needed
situational,
something a little bit cheaper than Garrick's Wake.
right?
Yeah.
And also that it still has a versatility when you're not against a planeswalker deck. So you can it's still a board wipe for creatures, or it's great in your planeswalker deck because you're going to destroy all creatures.
Chris knows where I'm at.
That
So,
is what's up.
It's good against planeswalker decks, but it's also good in planeswalker decks because of good versatility. So start swapping out all those standard basic lands for some snow lands if you're running black, and also get a great return because it's creature or planeswalker card as well. We should mention, so you can return
Mono Black Snow Devotion.
Oh, getting Gary back with this feels really good.
I threw up in my mouth a little.
But like returning a 6, so board wipe, return a 6 cost planeswalker to the battlefield.
Tavesh.
Yeah.
Seems good. Seems really good.
Speaking of 6 cost creatures you might want to play in your Blood on the Snow deck, my next card is Burning Room Demon, 4 black, creature demon berserker, 6/6 flying. When Burning Rune Demon enters the battlefield, you may search your library for exactly 2 cards not named Burning Rune Demon that have different names. If you do, reveal those cards. An opponent chooses one of them, put the chosen card into your hand and the other into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. So honestly, where I'm at with this is great in any graveyardy focused commander deck because you just get the other card anyway. And so I play Marine. And so you just play this. They give you one of the cards, you put the other in the graveyard, end of turn, you just reanimate it with Marine and you're good to go. Yeah. Chris is ready for his, what's that creature's
Encore.
Arami.
Encore.
Arami
name? Arami.
of the Dead Tide.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, yeah, this is just great for any deck that's using that type of synergy where you can still get the other card, which is probably going to be most decks that would play something like this.
What's so great about this is then you Encore Burning Rune out, you get 3 triggers in a pod. Or 4 triggers. You still get the 4 triggers, so you get one. No, you
don't get the actual
3.
creature back. Yeah, you don't get the actual creature.
Right. You don't get a creature back right away, but I mean, there's other ways and things that are doing this. But so now you're going to get some extra creatures to your hand, plus add a few more to your graveyard that you can then encore next turn or whatever. Shenanigans. Hey,
I
Farva.
like these shenanigans. I like these shenanigans with a Palladium Mirror. And let's see. So I started theory crafting a combo with Arami that used Palladium Mirror, Intruder Alarm. Oh, there's that problematic card again. Between Arami, Intruder Alarm, or something else. But you basically gassed through your whole deck and just encored your entire deck onto everyone. I'm still working on it.
I like it.
I can see the possibility. Yeah, there's so many things that if you get some untap abilities onto Arami or something, and you're just like,
probably play the infamous blue what is it? I'm blanking now. Billy Pala and Grand Arbiter.
Oh,
yeah, that works. That does it.
but yeah,
man.
there's some good things. I also like this just because if you're running a demon tribal deck, or you can throw in that alt con and just get those demons of different names out.
Liliana's Contract, right?
Yep, Liliana's
That's
Contract. Yep.
Yes.
Outwin cons.
I like those. I like not having to hit them to win.
I'm just like, I'm just surviving until this happens.
It's a vibe.
Yeah. Well, Darman, back up to you.
Sure thing. My next card is Herald of the Skemfar King. This is one of those cards that we were talking about earlier. Has incidental, weird tribal / party things going on here. Herald, King of Skemfar, is a legendary elf warrior who costs 1 colorless, black-green. He has Menachi, Menace. When Herald
Scholar, I see.
I too am a man of culture. When this critter enters the battlefield, you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and you may reveal an elf, warrior, or Tyvar card from among them, and put it into your hand. Put the rest of them on the bottom of your library in a random order. Going back to, I think that was Chris's card, was the Saga. This is another card that does a lot of things. Number 1, it's just vanilla good. A 3-mana 3/2 with Menace. We don't hate it.
Yeah.
We can literally play this as our commander, and it's still insanely good. But it also grabs literally everything. It grabs elves. It grabs our cool typed planeswalker. It grabs warriors ?
Yeah.
That's pretty broad. That's the most broad one. It's just like, warrior.
Well, that's a weird one, right? Because now I can throw this card in Najila.
Yeah.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
So one of my favorite parts of this card, it was one of the first things you said about it, and that's that the CMC is 1 black-green, which means this gets hit off Collected Company.
Oh my god! I didn't even see that.
I can't wait to Coco into this to then get another elf.
Oh my lord.
So I'm super hyped about this
Canceling
card.
Cameron.
Yeah, kick me out of the
Cameron,
call.
Cameron, you beautiful man, you with the beard.
Also, like,
So-
I like uncommon legendary creatures
Mhm.
so much, and this is just a joy for.
That was a great thing that Dominaria started, and I'm hyped that they're continuing it.
Yeah.
Not
so
every
this-
legendary has to be a rare.
Exactly. And I
Or
say that as
this
somebody
high-powered.
playing a uncommon in our Great Commander Showdown. But this card is one of the reasons that I picked up elves in Historic. I don't know, like I don't necessarily think that deck's gonna slap this in as a 4 of, but
No. Solid 2. Solid 2.
I cannot wait to Coco into this card. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a 2 of, I think this card is really fair and historic. And I'm thinking maybe, and I'm not sure, possibly. This is a card that if you are a new player, this is a solid spec card. And what I mean by that is that this card has the potential of being either a 25-cent card that you just casually have to being a $4 to $10 card, an absolute staple in black green. Being able to sustain card advantage, this card replaces itself almost guaranteed by being able to search the top 5. It's going to be very rare that you're playing these kind of cards together and you're not going to have that density to where you whiff on a land
right.
or on 5 lands in a row or enchantments and removal, etc.
Right. I completely agree with you there. And I mean, I wanted to put up the showcase art for this because I love this art. This is one of my favorite things. But like, I mean, if you're gonna spec into the like the cool, unique arts,
This is one to
Yeah.
get in foil.
yeah, this is definitely one of
Assuming
those.
they're not
that's crazy.
Pringle chips.
Yeah, hopefully.
I've already invested
see.
in silicone packets.
Smart.
I try to be.
Chris, what do you got for the next one?
I don't know. Where am I?
Where are you? And I'm
Are
so
we
sorry.
we on number 5 already? No.
Number
No,
4.
we're on number 4.
I
We
skipped.
just go right back to Blood in the Snow.
I skipped one.
Just talk about it again.
So I
So
did have to
good, had to
pick
bring
one
it
of the
back to us.
gods, and I don't know. Red has some of my favorite things, and so I picked Toralf, God of Fury, or Thor.
Definitely not Thor.
Definitely
Similar
not
but
Thor.
legally distinct. from.
Legendary creature god for 2 and 2 red, with for a 5/4 trampler. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent control is dealt excess non-combat damage, Toralf deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than that permanent. I
This
like
is a
this just because
stupid
it's
control
not stuff
card.
you have to do.
So,
Oh
Remember-
yeah.
remember
Because-
when we were talking about Tybalt's trickery?
Yep.
Here's my theory, Craft.
Ooh.
I got something to pitch to you, pal. We're gonna use Tybalt's trickery to either ramp into this guy, or we're gonna throw our shock away and get fiery emancipation, so that we have a damage tripler that causes all damage to cascade up through the ranks.
There's some crazy things this card's gonna be able to do, and the best part is you don't even have to be the one to do it.
Mhm.
Nope.
Like you can politic someone else and it's like, can you do like, you can do some buddy shenanigans, with like multiple red decks on the table. There's some great stuff, but also as we mentioned, it is one of the god cards with a flip option. Did I save it?
While you're doing that, I got to say my one complaint about this card is that it doesn't say whenever a creature, planeswalker, or player. Like, just give us the EDH value of when I deal non-combat damage to a player. Let me redirect that. Like, I mean, I want my like 1 in a million chance where I hit my opponent in my Perforos deck and they're at 1 and I get to ping something else. Like, give me my 1 in a million.
I mean, don't forget though. It also means you don't have the disadvantage of that. That means you can go all out. Like you can just swing all out, guarantee a kill on a player, and that you're not overkilling them. That would be OP. Not gonna lie, in a pod, just like take someone out, and just like you don't even have to think about how you're swinging at them. You're just gonna, and then like start swinging at someone else. You just swing all out at one person and then redistribute.
Well, it is non-combat damage at
Right.
least, so there is that.
Oh
side
yeah,
of
that's
it.
true. Yeah,
So you're not like,
anything crazy.
yeah, and that's why I think you could add player on there. Like, I think if it was just any damage, I definitely think you wouldn't want
True.
that.
But also, it comes with Toralf's Hammer, legendary artifact equipment, 1 in a red. Equipped creature has 1 in a red. Tap, unattached Toralf's Hammer. It deals 3 damage to any target. Return Toralf's Hammer to its owner's hand. Equipped creature also gets +3/+0 as long as it's legendary. Not crazy. Nothing. But obviously,
Weird.
unequipped shenanigans is a thing.
Weird place to put an artifact that unattaches itself with a warrior card that literally attaches artifacts to warriors in
What?
the same block.
What?
Whoa,
How convenient.
Weird.
yeah.
Amazing. Because that's what we needed is turn 1 warrior, turn 2 hammer, turn 3 whack.
Yeah.
mean,
I mostly
and-
picked this card because Toralf. I like him
Right.
in general. Just a fun card. In chat, I know we don't always do shout outs, but Dino and Ned does mention wouldn't be bad in the Firesong Sunspeaker deck.
Yeah.
Seems good. Also, not my favorite alt arts, but still cool.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, I mean, it's hard for any equipment that's not the cleave right
Yeah.
now. But like +3 +0 is not bad. Like, it does have to go on a legendary, but like,
Well, especially in
For a 2 equip cost.
right, like it's not a problem. I'm sorry, I don't have the backside. Can you put that back up on the screen for me real quick?
The
Yeah,
God side?
there it is. Yeah, as long as it's legendary. Ah, man, I don't think that there's a 1-drop warrior legendary that's relevant
so far.
so far, and yet so close. It could be right around the corner. Lord knows, they're always lurking.
Always lurking.
What's the Cobalt from Commander Legends?
Oh, wait a minute, Rograk?
Yeah, is that a warrior?
Hang on, is he?
Oh no.
That'll
If he
upset
is.
me. Oh no.
He's a warrior.
Right.
No.
Yes, he's a Cobalt warrior. Got him.
I take back everything I said.
So I know, granted, like not standard, but like,
But still, shenanigans.
but yeah, still shenanigans.
Legacy legal.
Hey,
Like
Pharma.
at Legacy legal. Oh man, I love it.
Yeah, no, wait. This is actually probably really good.
It's one of those that like it's not great, but when it's good, it's gonna be really good, like that kind of thing. So we can hop into my
I'm
next card.
concerned.
And my next card has one of my favorite arts in the set, and that is Glorious Protector, 2 white. For an Angel Cleric, we got an Oops Cleric here. And it's a 3/4 flash flying with Foretell. And then when Glorious Protector enters the battlefield, you may exile any number of non-angel creatures you control until Glorious Protector leaves the battlefield.
Hang on. Eerie interlude. Is
Right.
that you?
Right.
Any number? Wait, what?
Yep. Any number of non-angel creatures you control.
With
So-
Flash Foretell? What?
Yep.
We're gonna what kind of garbage is this?
It's the kind of garbage that dodges Doomscar and
Right.
Blood in the Snow.
Right.
Come
And so-
on. Come
I
on,
mean,
Chris,
true.
keep up.
Yeah. and
Also,
this-
it's stuff White needs.
right.
Not gonna lie. So I mean,
And this
Another
you
is-
can't be
blink tool?
mad. You can't be mad.
Another
'Cause-
blink tool? Yeah.
I mean, White has to do what it does really well because it does a lot of things not good at all.
It doesn't. It's very, yeah.
Listen, we were already pushing it with Mangara. We
Yeah.
gave you some card draw. Don't ask for anything more.
Ramp? What's that?
Yeah. Ain't nobody got time for ramp.
Listen,
Ramp-
Night of the White Orchid knocking on my door says he wants to have a word.
But yeah, like this is it's one of those cards. Darman, you mentioned Eerie Interlude. It's one of those cards that, like, on its base play pattern is just a protect your board from a board wipe.
Which, I
And-
mean,
Yeah, like I'm kind of been like that's kind of where I like to be with my white decks.
Yeah.
And so I'm super excited about that. Super excited that we got a shout out from. We're gonna give Dynamo another shout out for Teferi's protection, saying that this is
Yeah.
almost Teferi's protection against the white weenies, or when you're playing white weenies. And I gotta say, like, I'm excited for a card that protects my board, can still be a threat, but also isn't like $50 or whatever Teferi's protection is. I don't think it's actually
Also,
$50, but
In Atraxa, you just ult tons of planeswalkers. You know, they're still alive. You flicker them out. One Glorious Protector leaves. They all come back up to the standard starting count. Oh.
so at the current time of January the 25th, 21, the cheapest Teferi's protection is $37 out of the mystery booster,
yeah.
which is significantly down from being I think it was almost up to 55 when it was at its peak before the reprint confirmation.
Yeah.
So yeah, super into it. I'm excited to play it.
I got one more card, guys.
Yeah, you do. And it's a good one.
It is such a good one. Y'all, I was telling you about my hype for playing Jund Elves, and I needed some black mana fixing. So they gave me a planeswalker named Tyver Kell. Let me tell you about Tyver Kell.
Tell me
I feel
about
like-
Tyvar.
Yeah, I feel like this is the card we've been hinting at this whole time, and we just haven't talked about.
This man reminds me of a South
we were
Park
just setting it up.
episode. I keep looking at his beautiful abs and thinking about a special time in South Park. Call me a degen or what have you, but Tyver Cal is. We have a static ability. We have an extremely relevant ultimate. For those of you listening along with us this evening, Tyver Cal.
Chris is so happy.
He is. Hang on.
He is a
I got-
gorgeous
hold on, hang
male
on.
elf.
I gotta channel Delilah from whatever radio station she's on. I can't even remember anymore.
Tyver Cal costs 2 colorless and green. Elves you control have tap and add black. His first ability is a +1. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target elf. Untap it, it gains Death Touch until end of turn.
Then for his 0 ability, he has create a 1/1 elf warrior, and then its ultimate at 6, -6. You get an emblem with whenever you cast an elf spell, it gains haste until end of turn, and you draw 2 cards.
It sure would be a pity if elves like tapped for mana, and then
It
you could
sure
use that to
would
cast
suck.
the elves that you drew off of the ability.
It sure would suck to cast Elvish Archdruid, draw 2 cards, tap Elvish Archdruid without having anger in the graveyard to, like, give you haste or some other incidental card. Oh my gosh. And we're not even touching the parts where we can proliferate this card
Right.
with Evolution Sage from War of the Spark, Pollen Bright Druid, and your miscellaneous elves that proliferated from Scars of Mirrodin to help your infect strategy. Like, this card does so much. It makes dudes. It makes your dudes relevant. It untaps
Yep.
your dudes. I'm sorry. You played Elvish Archdruid to play Tyvar. Untap your Elvish Archdruid. Keep going.
Yeah,
Also,
and I
like,
think that's one of the
it's-
best lines.
for an established board state, just in general. It's like, I already have a ton of elves. Well, not all of them are mana dorks. Now they are.
You-
Yeah.
Right, but that's the cool part, right? It's like all of these other miscellaneous elves are now also dorks. Oh my god. My commanders, Tana and Miara from Legends and Commander 16 respectively, they're also dorks now. So like I can play Miara on turn 2 and not feel bad
Mm-hmm.
that I have to wait until things die to draw cards. Like she becomes relevant on the spot.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah. This is
Yes.
Could
This
you
is
guys
the
tell I'm
exact power
excited
level.
about this card?
Yeah, this is the exact power level I like my planeswalkers at.
I think this
Like-
card may accidentally make its way absolutely into Legacy Elves.
Hmm.
100%.
Interesting.
Because it's relevant at every point in the game.
Right.
I mean,
and
I
this-
agree.
On
Yeah,
an
and
empty board, full board, like it's so good.
Yeah, it does everything that you want in a like fair planeswalker, I'll say, or like you don't have a static ability that just shuts down your opponents from playing the game. But like, because like yeah, exactly what you just said. You don't have a board, it makes an elf for free. You have a board, untap that board, give one of them a +1/+1 counter and death touch. Like then you can tap for more mana or attack or whatever. Like it's just a great card on all points in the elf curve.
We should also mention the emblem does require it to be a cast card, so your tokens do not gain haste,
This is true.
which is fortunate, I guess, to say in a sense. Also, because of its static ability, cannot be run in a mono green deck
For commander, yeah.
for commander.
That's one of my favorite things when this came out because its color identity is green black because it has the symbol.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, because it's not like extort where it's in the reminder text.
Mm-hmm. It's not a rules text. It's a static
It's an
ability
effect.
with the symbol
Yeah.
and an effect.
Yeah.
So it is a Golgari elf by all intents and purposes. So
Sorry, Fairlease, you can't have this bad boy.
Right.
probably for the best.
Yeah, probably.
Facts.
Yeah. Oh man,
Gotta
Chris.
play with Reese the Exiled.
Oh yeah. Which is conveniently just reprinted.
Yes, yeah, in the new deck.
Yeah, and
I
then you
forgot
can put
about
an elf
that.
deck. So
So that is my 5th card, and I feel like this one is going to be the largest house in Standard. I think this one is going to have the most impact for Standard. It's playable in literally every format, though. So
Right.
this one
and
gets the gold star. It's playable without being oppressive.
yes, very much
yeah,
so.
exactly.
It's not broken, but it has so much support utility that it's gonna be great. And yeah, Dynamo Net also mentioned so much for having Tyvar and Marwyn. Yeah, unfortunately, Marwyn's fun though.
Yeah. Or just ask your play group and just like errated it to tabs for green instead of black. Like, it's commander.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
Daily reminder, rule 0.
yeah, rule 0.
There is no wrong way to play Magic, except when you're wrong.
Yeah.
except for like in like where you have to follow all the rules, tournaments, things of the sort.
It's not like the whole rules book is literally the size.
It's not like
of,
Magic is the most
Lorne.
complex game in history.
It's not like supercomputers still can't figure it out.
It's not like that's the reason why we don't have like a solid Magic platform that has all the sets, because the interactions between intersets that aren't a standard lease.
I feel bad for the 3 college guys that they have locked up in the Moto basement.
Oh man.
Like having guys, a new set's coming out in 3 months. We have to code everything. But we don't even know what's in the set.
Start coding. That's why you got to start coding right away.
Like we have a general idea, I guess, kind of, maybe no. But
Thank
moving on.
God for
So
shell. Thank God for shell programming and having general rules set up for cards.
right, my last card is a vehicle. I needed to get an artifact in there, and this might just be like once again my troll card. But the Colossal Plow is a 6/3 vehicle for 2. It does have crew 6, which is kind of a high crew cost, but this is just fun. Whenever Colossal Plow attacks, add 3 white mana. You gain 3 life, and until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases ends.
To some,
So we have rampant white. It just got to crew it for 6.
Yep, got to crew it for 6.
thank goodness they printed a 2-cost Ox that literally does the thing. I can't wait to draft this set in 2 years after the plague is gone and just ramp into Ox, play Plow, and then play more cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This card is fun, and
Yeah,
I like it
it's-
in the Depala EDH.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I was thinking because I've really wanted to build a Depala deck, and it's a lot more
Sur-
feasible now. Once again, we got more dwarves.
Getting more dwarves.
I-
We got more.
I
vehicles.
sure hope you picked up your older dwarves while you could. Some of them are really starting to spike.
Not surprised. I already had a good portion of them anyway because I was trying to do it. I'm just like, there's just not enough yet, but there will be. I hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not great.
They're finally remembering that dwarves is a tribe.
Yeah.
It's like
They
of
do
all the
exist.
fantasy, the mole people. No, the Schneeple.
Yeah, they kind of get forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well.
The most underrepresented of the Fae, dwarves. How dare they?
I just want some more dwarf representation.
So my next card and our last card for tonight was one of the first cards officially spoiled, and I am super excited. We're going to get into some fun modal double phase card chat as well with this, and that's Valky, God of Lies, 1 black legendary creature god. This is our Loki card. And so when Valky enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature card and they reveal this way until Valky leaves the battlefield. Then for X, choose a creature card exiled with Valky and with converted mana cost X. Valky becomes a copy of that card. So on its face, take their Croxa, become the Croxa, hit them with the Croxa.
Seems good.
Yeah.
But there's more.
Yeah, but wait. You're telling me, Chris, the God of Lies isn't what they seem to be?
How dare they?
Yeah.
This fabrication, this absolute facade.
Yes. Because under that facade, we have a playable Tybalt. And this is Tybalt Cosmic Imposter for 5 black red legendary creature or legendary planeswalker Tybalt. As Tybalt enters the battlefield, gain an emblem with you may play cards exiled with Tybalt's Cosmic Imposter. You may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast those spells. And Tybalt comes in with 5 loyalty counters.
I love
So-
this Tybalt
yes,
so
I'm-
much.
I'm so hyped. And so +2, exile the top card of each player's library. -3, exile target creature or target artifact or creature. -8, exile all cards from all graveyards. Gain 3 red mana.
So one of my favorite things is that it has an enter the battlefield emblem.
Yes.
And so
It's- Sorry, go ahead.
You continue to have that advantage if they get rid of Tybalt. Granted, you're not generating more advantage by exiling more cards, but you're just like, look at all these extra cards I have technically in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
So as a rules question, and I'm pretty sure I already know the answer. I play new Tybalt, I get new access.
Yep.
Like-
Yeah. So
Like
As
you
long
have
as you have
access to the old spells too.
Mhm. yeah, since it's tied to the emblem, not tied to having Tybalt in play.
Right.
Right.
So
And so you,
it's-
even if they destroy your Tybalt, you can still play the cards. You just don't get more. And then you play the new one, you start generating more cards. Like,
Between
so hyped.
so there's a couple of ways we can build around this card.
For sure. For one thing,
I-
it can be your command.
Your commander.
That's true. It is a Rakdos commander card.
What?
I have a friend who is doing Rakdos Eldrazi, and he's strongly considering switching his Rakdos out for this card. The one that does the cost reduction. Just
Oh.
instead play this card and just dump the Eldrazi into graveyard. Hit him with the X.
Or just have it on top of your deck and exile it because it's each player's library gets exiled. So
Yeah,
your own
yeah.
library is getting exiled
You can
too.
sure, yeah, you can vamp tutor and just put Ulamog on top. It's okay. Ain't nobody gonna stop you. But I think the most important thing about this card is that Cascade is a stupid mechanic.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about how Cascade interacts with this card, Cameron?
Oh, why, yes, I can. So for some reason, and I can definitely see us getting a rules errata here. If you would cast a modal double face card without paying its mana cost, you can choose which side you cast. So with Cascade, say hypothetically off Bloodbraid Elf in Modern, you would get your Valky, and then you would get to cast your Tybalt off of that Cascade. So for 4 mana, you get a 3/2 with haste and a 7 mana Planeswalker. So that is super exciting. And I personally cannot wait for it. And then I'm not 100% sure, but I also think this works off Coco. Because I know you could Coco into the lands from the other modal double face cards.
What?
So I think you can Coco into Tybalt. That I'm less confident on, but I think that works.
What? Hang on. Let me read Coco real quick. Collected company.
Because they're put into play. And I believe that lets you choose, because the play lets you play the land. And so from the previous modal double faces. And so like I said, I'm not 100% confident on that, but it 100% works with a Cascade. But
Yeah, I'll have to ask my judge friend.
yeah. So that's one. I'm anticipating a ton of rules questions around Valky. Once we get back to real tournaments and once things are back, there's just going to be so many weird things for
There's
cheating
certainly-
costs.
Yeah, and anytime we can cheat costs, we're a happy Magic player with our mana efficiency.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I'm excited for this card. I think it's fun. The chaos factor of exiling the top card of each player's library is reminiscent of cards like Itali from Rivals of Ixalan. I all around, it's just a really fair and balanced card. It's not oppressive. I think the next step with this card is trying to figure out what combination of MDFCs we can use to play Valky Tybalt in some sort of Grixis control / add white / add green. I feel like this card will be a house in some sort of control deck that wants to play. You had mentioned Kroxa earlier. Since we don't have Uro, Kroxa is the next best thing. I don't know. I don't see myself going out of my way to craft this card, but if I do open this card in Arena, I'm definitely going to do some shenanigans.
I like this alt art a lot too.
It's so much better than lounging on the chair.
Yeah. And I got to say, I am in general a huge fan of this style that they did. And so we saw that some earlier with Harold and then with Tarloff. And so Tarlov, whatever that is. And so I'm really a huge fan of this style. And I'm much more into this style than the like expedition style. And so, especially once we got to like the Amonkhet
Amonkhet ones.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, I think this would have been a good set for them to try a expedition again for these alt arts.
Oh, like Invocations?
Yeah, the Invocations. That's what those ones are
Invocations
called.
specifically. Yeah. So they had expedition lands. We had the inventions, right? Kaldheim inventions, Amonkhet invocations.
I think I prefer these these alternate frames, honestly, to those,
Mhm.
I still think Invocations were the absolute weakest of the alternate art forays.
I will
Mhm.
say they looked so much better in person than the screen releases, but still,
They do, but they're
it
still
was it was
illegible.
it was it was a
Yeah.
tough sell for sure.
Yep. And so those are our top picks for Kaldheim. I almost said Commander Legends. And so,
There's so much. Well, there's so much interaction
Yeah.
with Commander
Yeah.
Legends, right? They definitely were thinking about both of these.
right. And especially with that green black elves carryover, all those types of things. Like those two sets definitely were designed together. But as that brings us towards the end of our show, some quick announcements. This Thursday, we're having our end of month book club, looking at Treasure Island right back here, 6:45 Mountain Time. And then on Saturday, Chris and I will be part of the Great Commander Showdown over on the Infinity Bros Twitch channel at 5 p.m. Central. And so we're super excited to be part of that league. And then next week, when we're back here, we'll be doing our top 3 things that we would tell or give ourselves, or tell or give our 10-year-old self, and why. And so, and then, Darman, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have a somewhat quick post show chat. But before we get into that, where can the listeners find you?
Well, if they're looking for me specifically, probably the best place to find me is going to be at CrossForge Gaming. We have a Facebook page where we stream games with our community. We have a Discord and what have you that you can find there. The link will be in the description and podcast notes. And if you're a little bit more just tied to Magic, you can find me in Mana Flood, the community group on Facebook. I'm not super active there because it is still a moderately small group. So we encourage you to join that group and get to know some people, make some friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I'm Darman213.
And again, thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure being here.
So we are First Geek 411. You can find us on our socials at One Geek 411, and then our Discord server if you want to chat with us during the week. Our email is 1stgeek411@gmail.com. And then you can watch live on Twitch and find the videos over on our YouTube. You can also check out our Redbubble store and then rate and subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Then you can see our show notes over on our website, onegeek411.com, where you can find our sister podcast, Faith, Trust, and Pixie Dust. And then if you want to connect with Chris and I, you can do that on our personal social media. Mine's Hugh Marwitto.
And I'm not so foreign.
And it's been a great week.
Wash your hands.